So this is to answer the question, which is better, dumbbells or resistance, the cable machines or the machines that you find in your gym? So we're going to go over a few different, the pros and the cons, and then who each one might be best for. So I want to start with the machines, okay? Again, keeping in mind as we talk about this, there's lots of forms of resistance. There's body weight, there's sandbags, there's barbells, there's dumbbells, there's cable machines, there's resistance bands, there's medicine balls. And so keep all of those different pieces of equipment in mind as we talk about this as well. Also, over on my website at www.missyballasonfitness.com, there is a resources section there, and in that section I list all of my favorite tools. I run a studio from my home, so it's about 1,000 square feet, so I have to use equipment like you might in your home gym that's space efficient and that we can get the biggest bang for our buck on these pieces of equipment. So if you check that out on my website in the resources page, you'll see a list and links to all of my favorite pieces of home equipment and some descriptions about what they're for. So let's get started. So let's talk about machines. So first of all, I'm going to list for you some of the pros of using those machines that you might find in your gym. That's what we call selectorized equipment. A lot of times you'll see them in a row, and you'll often see them set up in a way, hopefully, set up in a way that if you're a new exerciser, you can go from machine to machine to machine to machine and get a workout for all the major muscle groups. It makes it very easy, and if you travel down the little row of machines, you should get a complete workout and hopefully alternating muscle groups front to back, top to bottom, however that particular gym decided to set it up. These machines also are great for beginners because they have placards on the machines and they talk about exactly which muscle groups you use. They talk about the different ways. Some machines might have a variety of ways that you can use them. So the placards will show you how to use the machines. So I like to recommend these machines, particularly for beginners as they're starting to build strength in their muscle, they're starting to build coordination, they're starting to build confidence being in a gym in the first place. And so, there's so many things you can do with this dumbbell that going to a machine is a great place for a person to start to build all of those pieces of their fitness puzzle. So machines are also safe, fairly safe, as long as you're using them properly, because they put you in a controlled plane of motion. So with my dumbbell, for example, I can kind of do whatever I want with this heavy dumbbell in my hand. In a machine, I'm kind of locked into a particular plane of motion, so it's a more controlled environment. Also with machines, I recommend these for people doing rehab quite often because with a machine, you can adjust it so that you only get a certain range of motion. So if I'm trying to strengthen my quadricep muscle because I have knee issues and I'm trying to build muscle around that knee joint, but yet I can't close my joint or open my joint all the way up or even close it all the way up, I can set myself some parameters where I can only go a certain range of motion. So you can set it by adjusting the pin so that you only get this certain range of motion so you don't overdo it. One of the benefits of the machines is this for rehab. So the other thing is you can, if set up properly, so if you're somebody that's just getting started at a gym and you want to start building some confidence and you need to know how to use those machines, I really recommend you ask them to run you through those machines and help you get set up properly, because you can cause injury even if it's in a controlled range of motion as these machines put you in. Still, if you get yourself overstretched or you're sitting at the machine on the wrong angle, you can still cause injury. So you do want to make sure that somebody is going to walk you through this equipment and give you the basics on how to line up your joints with that machine so that you're as safe as possible. The other thing about machines is that they have these rotating cams on them or moving cams that vary the resistance, or so the amount of weight that you feel in the muscle through the natural strength curve of a muscle. Because as our muscle opens up, for example, our bicep muscle, as we do this with my elbow, I have stronger and weaker points in that range of motion from here to here. So the cams on the machine kind of vary this resistance to help us through those areas. They also are great for isolating muscle. So on a machine, if I sit down to do a bicep curl, I'm going to really get focused work just in the bicep. They are great tools to use if maybe you're somebody that really want to step it up and you want to maybe start strengthening your bench press, but you don't have somebody there to assist you. So maybe you've been doing bench press on a barbell or with dumbbells, but you are there alone and you don't have somebody to assist you. The machines are a safer place to kick it up a notch and to lift a heavier weight so that you don't need somebody there to grab the bar in case it falls on your chest, because the machine will do the catching. So the people that I like to recommend these machines for are beginners, because they are in a more safe environment. They're great for building that confidence in the gym, because that machine does one thing. So when you sit down to that machine, you don't have 200 possibilities of what to do with it, and then that can get overwhelming and that can get kind of discouraging. So machines are great to help build your confidence. They're great as a beginner to build strength in the muscles and tendons until they're ready to do some more challenging work that might require balance. Great for bodybuilders that might be isolating particular muscle groups that they're really focused in just on the bicep today. Machines can be great for that, and then they can also be great for somebody doing rehab. Rebuilding your knee or your shoulder, because of the fact that you can lock into certain ranges of motion. I also like the machines for elderly clients. They tend to feel a lot more comfortable with the machines until they get their balance taken care of or their core control taken care of, and they just feel more comfortable on the machines. So there are a few what I might call cons to the machines. And this, again, all depends on your goal, okay? So you have to keep in mind that anything you change in your fitness routine all depends on your goal, so keep that in mind. For example, one of the cons of maybe the negatives of using a machine is that you don't necessarily have to use any stabilizing muscles. You're sitting on the machine, so you don't necessarily have to balance and control with your core muscles or any other assisting muscles that you might if you had to stand upright. For example, let's say that you are on let's say you're on a shoulder press machine, okay? That's the machine where you sit down and you take your arms like this and you press the weight up overhead. If you're on a shoulder press machine, you're sitting down. So your core doesn't have to, as opposed to standing up, for example, with dumbbells or a barbell, your core doesn't have to engage as much because you're not trying to balance yourself from tipping over. You have the chair there for support, which could be great if you're somebody that maybe has weak core control, or you're an elderly person, or you have a back issue. But maybe not so great if you're an athlete that's trying to, or just a person that's trying to get in shape for regular life. Maybe you're getting in shape for hunting season or gardening season, and you want to be able to use those core muscles to help you out in the other areas of life, which we call functional skills. So that's one thing about machines, is they're what we might call like non-functional exercise. We don't necessarily often in our life sit in a chair and press our arms up and down overhead. It's not something we might, however, take a heavy box, stand in our pantry, lift it and press it up overhead. So if you can put the exercise into a daily living activity where you can see yourself mimicking this in real life, that's considered a functional exercise. So the machines don't really give us much functional practice. So that could be what you might consider one of the negatives of using a cable machine. But then again, it always depends on your goals, right? So if I'm that elderly person and I'm just trying to build some strength in my shoulder right now, or maybe I am, again, rehabbing, or maybe I have a back issue going on and I don't want to stand and do my shoulder press out of fear that I might do a little something to my low back, or maybe I'm lifting a heavier weight and I'm not quite comfortable with that on my own, the machine might be the perfect place. So again, all goes back to your goal, okay? The other thing is that during busy times in a gym, you might find that the machines, this is kind of an aside why this might be a con, but oftentimes the machines you might find very busy. So that could just be potentially, if all you knew how to use was the machines, you might find yourself in a pickle if you went to the gym, super busy, and that can get really frustrating. So it's great to be able to learn how to use the free weights as well. So now we're going to jump into the free weights, and we're going to talk about the pros and the cons and who the free weights would be best for. And when I say best, again, it's not necessarily cut and dried. Again, it always is going to depend on your background, your state of wellness or injury, and it's going to depend on your goal. But let's just talk about some of those things. Some of the benefits of free weights are that you can get various angles with the muscle. So if I'm doing a bicep curl, for example, if I am on my cable machine, that cable machine is locking me into this angle, okay? So my wrist is straight right here. If I want to use a dumbbell and I want to shake it up and incorporate a different muscle, maybe incorporate a little extra forearm muscle, I can turn my wrist like this. And now I can do what's called a hammer curl, and it changes by changing the grip, it changes the muscles that I'm using. So that's one form of variety that you might get using dumbbells, one example that you might get of dumbbells that you might not get on a cable machine. Again, on the other side of this, you could open yourself up to injury if you're not used to doing these exercises or you're not holding the angles properly. I would really recommend, if you're somebody that's fairly new to the gym and you've been doing the cable machines and you feel like maybe you're ready to move on to free weights, maybe you've been doing them for a few weeks and you feel like your muscles and your tendons are strong, your coordination is coming along, your core is waking up, you might hire a trainer to show you how to do the basic free weight form, because there's a lot of different little tweaks we can do and cues that we can give you to help you get your form proper so that you're not injuring yourself. And that is something that trainers do. You don't necessarily have to buy 12 weeks of sessions. On occasion, you can get a trainer to just help you one time and show you all the basic moves that you want to do. So I really encourage you to do that, because you're going to save yourself a whole lot of heartache if you could just spend the money on a trainer for the one time and keep yourself safe so that you can continue working out for a long time. Okay? Another thing is, when we're doing free weights, we use a lot of stabilizer muscles. So the core muscles come into play as I'm standing there with free weights. Now, I could sit down with my free weights and I could take some of my stabilizing core muscles out. However, let's take the overhead press, for example. When we go back to that shoulder press, when I hold my arm up here, I have to work on keeping that weight in place. It might tip forward, it might tip back, so I have to use a lot of smaller muscles around the shoulder joint to help me keep that weight in a nice straight line. Whereas the machines, using those machines, do it for me. They just keep me, I can only move in one direction. So the benefit of the free weights, if you're ready for them, is that they do incorporate those smaller stabilizer muscles to help you out with that movement, to keep that balance of the dumbbell in the proper plane of motion. Okay? Again, that could also cause you injury if you're not ready for it. If you're making that shift from machines to, if you're kind of a beginner exerciser, and you're making that shift of machines to free weights, I would go through each exercise really lightly, a little more, using a little less weight than you think you're capable of, just to make sure that those stabilizer muscles that might have been sleeping while using the machines can come awake and can kind of get a handle on what's going on with the dumbbell. Okay? The other thing I love about dumbbell exercises is we can do compound moves. Compound moves are when you incorporate two different moves into one exercise. Okay? So they're really efficient. You get a lot of bang for your buck. They're fun because they're challenging the body in all new ways. An example of this might be, I have my dumbbells, I'm holding them here, I go down into a squat, stand up, and take a press overhead. So now I've asked my heart to pump blood to the muscles of the legs and to pump blood to the muscles in my shoulders. So I'm asking my heart to work pretty hard. It's going all over the place, right? Rather than just focused on one exercise. I'm also asking my muscles to kind of wake up and keep me balanced from tipping over as I go through that motion of squat and then coming up to a press. So we're asking a lot of stabilizer muscles, a lot of core muscles. We're challenging the heart. So compound moves are one of my favorite types of exercises to incorporate into workouts, because you get a lot of bang for your buck and you're not just calorie burn, but you're getting a lot of that coordination factor and a lot of skill in there. So again, those are great for athletes. Those are great for people. Those are great for gardeners, for example, or you're in your garage and you're trying to lift a heavy box of tax papers off the floor, lift them up, and press them overhead. That's a compound move. So you can practice those daily living activities in the gym by doing these compound moves. They also have a great metabolic impact, meaning that they will ramp your metabolism. So if you are somebody that's short on time and you have 20 or 30 minutes to work out, then you can incorporate the compound moves into your program and get a lot done in a little bit of time. Okay? There's a lot of variety with dumbbells. That's one thing I love about dumbbells. You could do anything with a dumbbell. Doesn't mean it's smart or safe, but there's a lot of variety for you to add into your routine with dumbbells. You can do dumbbells at home. These are definite pluses. Dumbbells are fairly inexpensive to purchase and have at home. I do recommend you make sure that you get a nice variety of sizes, because the smaller muscle groups, such as your shoulders, biceps, triceps, might not be able to they won't be able to handle as much as the larger muscle groups of your chest, your back, and your glutes and your legs. So you want to have a good variety so that you're challenging your muscles enough to adapt. Also, as I said, in the comments or in the title, there is the link to the article that I wrote about busting through your fitness plateau by adjusting your workout with the frequency, intensity, type, and timing of exercise. I go into detail more on how to adjust your weights and such in that article, so check that out. So I guess the only cons that I can think of for you when it comes to dumbbell, there are a few. If you don't have the skills or the technique down, you can certainly injure yourself, which again is why I really recommend you hire a trainer to help you learn some basic moves. Come with a list of moves that you want to know. Maybe you have a program you want to try that's a dumbbell program, and you just want to have them look at your form and check you out, okay? You oftentimes will need a spotter. If you're starting to lift heavier and heavier as you get stronger and stronger, you're probably going to need a spotter at some point with those dumbbells to make sure that you're really pushing that weight to get stronger and to build more muscle without injuring yourself. And then again, the injury factor. Not that dumbbells need to be scary, but there is a little more opportunity to injure yourself using a dumbbell, probably, I would have to say, rather than a selectorized piece of machinery, which the equipment that the machines that you see in the circuits at the gym. So if I was to pick who would be best for what, I would have to say the three people I would think would be best to start out, and I said start out because you can, progress your way along with the machines, would be beginners. Would be bodybuilders that might be isolating. Now, I can see a bodybuilder certainly doing dumbbell exercises and the machines, but that bodybuilder, if they're really isolating and looking to isolate one particular muscle area, would certainly want to incorporate some machines into their routine. And then rehab patients and the elderly, okay, because of that safety and that control of the machines. When it comes to dumbbells, people that would be appropriate candidates for dumbbells would be really most people would be perfect candidates for dumbbells, as long as you have built that strength and that coordination leading up to it. And just kind of, let's say you're just getting started, I would say try 3 weeks of the machines or resistance bands even, or body weight exercises before adding the dumbbells, because you're gonna find you're gonna get a lot of muscle soreness with the dumbbells right off the bat. So you wanna make sure that you kind of prepped yourself, give yourself a little runway before diving right into it. So again, you could use dumbbells for rehab depending on what your situation is and what your physical therapist says. Bodybuilders, again, using dumbbells because they would typically use a combination of tools. Because as I said before, those movements that you can do with dumbbells are functional movements. And so athletes need to be moving in lateral directions and forward and side and up and down. And so the dumbbells add a lot of possibility there. So those are my two comparisons of dumbbells and machines. Of course, there are lots of other tools that offer a lot of other variety to your routine, and I really recommend that you mix it up. But the question at hand was, are dumbbells better than machines? Do you get more calorie burn, or do you get more fit with one or the other? And really my answer to that is it really depends on your goal. And I would really recommend to mix things up a little bit. The bottom line is the workout you're gonna do is probably the best workout for you. So I think that shaking it up and using different pieces of equipment makes a workout more fun and more interesting. It kind of gets me more motivated. If I had the same workout I was doing every day with the same piece of equipment, I think I'd get a little bored. Sometimes I'll take the exact same workout that I do with a dumbbell and I'll do it with a barbell, or I'll do it with a sandbag. So you can give yourself a little bit of variety there just to shake up what the muscle stimulation or what stimulation is going on to the muscle. So that is my answer to your question.